Hey there, welcome everybody to the 2024 TXN Sports World Year in Review Special. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined by Michael Bullock. We are awaiting perhaps the presence of good old MF Michael Fletcher. If he comes in, we will catch him up on what he missed. Or if not, we'll hopefully have him back with us tomorrow night for TXN Sports World NFL Friday, Week 17 edition. 2024 in the year of sport, in the world of sports. I will go on the record and say it was one of the best years for us personally. At least one of our teams either won a championship or played for a championship this year. And a lot of exciting things happened. And so not much more to say on that. So let us now take a look back at the last 12 months in the world of sports. Of course, we start at the beginning like we always do. We start in the month of January. And in the month of January, the Michigan Wolverines finished their story and won the College Football Playoff National Championship for the first time since 1997 when they split it with Nebraska. But this time around, it was theirs outright when they defeated the Washington Huskies in the championship game. And a special moment that I will never forget because I got to celebrate it with good old MF Michael Fletcher and Michael Bullock. They are both Michigan Wolverine fans. So they got to celebrate that, and a very special moment indeed. And it was their first in 26 years. And, you know, great way to start off the year in the world of sports in 2024. And then in the month of February, well, it was the dawning of a new dynasty, of the newest dynasty in the NFL. That dynasty being the Kansas City Chiefs, as the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 58 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. For only the second time in history, we had a Super Bowl go to overtime. And it was Patrick Mahomes finding Mecole Hardman for the touchdown to win it for Kansas City. And we all remember the wild and crazy celebration in the luxury suite with Taylor Swift and her entourage. And it gave the Chiefs their second consecutive Super Bowl and third in the last 4 years, or third in the last 5 years, cementing themselves as the NFL's newest dynasty. And they are currently on track because yesterday, on Christmas Day, with their resounding win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, they wrapped up the number 1 seed in the AFC. And the chances of them three-peating are looking very, very good. In March, of course, we had another exciting March Madness NCAA tournament on both the men's and the women's side. Perhaps the most exciting tournament in the history of the women's game, and that can be attributed to the one and only Caitlin Clark, where ratings were through the roof for this year's women's tournament. And when all was said and done, as we fast forwarded to the month of April, it brought us the UConn Huskies and their coach Dan Hurley winning their second consecutive national championship in dominant fashion, just as dominant as the year before. All 6 wins were by double digits. And on the women's side, it was Dawn Staley leading the South Carolina Gamecocks to an undefeated championship season, outlasting Caitlin Clark and Iowa in the championship game to give them another national championship. Then we did have a small bit of a lull. Nothing really exciting happening in the month of May, with the exception of the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA playoffs. And then it was in the month of June. And it started as Girl MF Michael Fletcher got to celebrate a second championship as his Birmingham Stallions won the UFL championship. And it was their third consecutive spring football championship. They won 2 USFL championships in 22 and 23. And then they got to add the first ever UFL championship to their trophy case. And they did all that. So what ended up being a championship game against the upstart San Antonio Brahmas, it was Birmingham who walked away with that championship, and it was and that took place on Father's Day on June 16th. A resounding 25-0 victory at the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Then the very next day, June 17th, a special moment, not just for Michael Bullock, but for all of us in our circle. As Michael Bullock, for the first time in 16 years, Michael Bullock got to celebrate as his beloved Boston Celtics captured their 18th NBA championship, capping off a very successful season. And there you see it right there. The championship hat. He's got the gear on. He went right out there and he bought that gear. And hey, I went out and bought a shirt myself. And I'm not wearing it right now, but yes, you get the gist of it. Michael Bullock got to celebrate as his Celtics a great playoff run, a 64-18 regular season, followed up by a 16-3 playoff run where they defeated the Miami Heat in 5 games in the first round. Second round, knocked off the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games. A 4-game sweep of the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then in the NBA Finals, a 5-game series win over the Dallas Mavericks to give the Celtics their 18th NBA championship. Jaylen Brown was voted the most valuable player of both the conference finals and the NBA Finals. And it was celebration time for Bullock and all of our friends in our circle. A lot of them are Celtic fans, like Mike and Brian Keenan and Heather and Ryan Abedizian and Heather Rostic and the rest of our crew. A special moment indeed. I know that's the one he will never forget. And then in the month of July, well, not overly much happened in the month of July. And then it was, of course, at the end of July, from July the 26th to August 11th, we had the return of the Summer Olympic Games, the 2024 Summer Olympics, the officially the games of the 33rd Olympiad in Paris, France. And it was Team USA who won the medal count with 40 gold medals, 44 silver medals, 42 bronze medals for a total of 126 medals, 35 more than the second place country, which was China, who had 40 gold medals, 27 silver medals, and 24 bronze medals for a total of 91 medals. And Most notably, of course, it was the men's basketball team winning the gold medal in a very exciting gold medal game. And, so they won it in, it was the 5-on-5, of course, and they finished it. And a very exciting championship game that went down to the wire, and they got it done, knocking off France in the championship game. Very fun game, I will be honest with you, and I remember, and MF was absolutely outstanding on the commentary there, and I remember this was right around the time of my birthday, so that made it extra special for me. And what an outstanding title game that it really was. 98-87, winning it, and the women also. It came down to the U.S. and France in both the men's and women's final, 67-66. I know MF will have more on the Summer Olympics when we get to him, because the Olympics are more his thing than my thing. But the basketball was the most notable for me. And then in the month of September, of course, football season started back up again. We were in the midst of a new NFL season, which started with the Kansas City Chiefs opening up against the Baltimore Ravens. And of course, a very exciting college football season. Excuse me. With new conference alignments. And of course, the 12-team college football playoff. And we will have the preview of the quarterfinal matchups that will start on Tuesday night on New Year's Eve and then carry over into New Year's Day. So that was in the month of September. And then October, of course, you know what that means, playoff baseball. And this is where I had my moment. As my New York Yankees, for the first time since 2009, won the American League pennant, defeating the Cleveland Guardians in 5 games. Juan Soto with the home run that we'll never forget. While we were doing a show on that actual night. And it was the Yankees who were in the World Series. But unfortunately, the Yankees could not bring home the World Series. They were defeated by the Los Angeles Dodgers in 5 games, mainly because of the most disastrous half inning you will ever see. An inning in which the Yanks had a 5-0 lead with 2 outs, and then they just absolutely self-destructed. And it was the Dodgers. They took full advantage of it, and it was the Dodgers who won the World Series. Shohei Ohtani, in his first year with the Dodgers after leaving the Angels, he gets his World Series ring, and they will without a doubt be heavy favorites to win it again in 2025. No question about that. But a great postseason for the Yankees, and I'm just glad that all 3 of us had special moments with our teams, and that MF and Bullock got to celebrate championships. Unfortunately, I did not, but hey, just getting to play for one was a thrill. And I am hopeful that, come 2025, at least one of my teams or both of my football teams will be in the running for a championship. Notre Dame currently in the college football playoff. We'll get to that at the end, and of course my Buffalo Bills. I mean, they'll be in the running for the Super Bowl, no question about that. I would love to see at least one of them get it, or both of them. That would be something, but we'll have to wait and find out. But And then of course, new seasons of the NHL and NBA, and I can't believe I just remembered this. Also in the month of June, in addition to the Boston Celtics winning the NBA championship, the Florida Panthers captured their first Stanley Cup championship in franchise history, doing that in grand style as well. I believe it was the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round they knocked off, and then the second round, unfortunately for Michael Bullock, it came at the expense of his Boston Bruins, and then in the conference finals, it came at the expense of my and MF's New York Rangers, who are an absolute mess right now. I will not lie, big time mess. Let's see. Actually, yes, it was. I was correct. It was the Tampa Bay Lightning winning that in 5 games. Second round, it was the Boston Bruins in 6 games. Conference finals, it was against the New York Rangers in 6 games. And then in the Stanley Cup final, jumped out to a 3-0 lead against the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers won 3 in a row to force a Game 7, but the Florida Panthers would not be denied. They won their first ever Stanley Cup championship, defeating Edmonton in Game 7 on June 24. And I apologize for forgetting that. I was just so excited about the year that the three of us had when it came to our teams. So, and then obviously new seasons of the NHL and NBA starting, and college basketball starting up, and the NFL season winding down. We're in the penultimate week of the regular season, and we'll get into that tomorrow night as part of week 17 of the NFL. And all in all, a very exciting year in the world of sports, especially for the three of us and our teams. And it was great that we all got to celebrate our teams either winning a championship or, in the case of me, playing for a championship. So that's pretty much 2024 in a nutshell for me. So not much more to say. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. The year 2024 in the world of sports, you got to celebrate, and like I said, you got to celebrate 2 championships. Michigan winning the college football playoff national championship in January, and then in June, your Birmingham Stallions winning the UFL, their 3rd straight spring football championship overall, to go with the 2 USFL titles they won. But outside of those, what do you think about when I mentioned the year 2024 in the world of sports?
Wow. I have to admit that when it comes to the year in sports in 2024, it was remarkable, with everything that was going on. Uh, you know, uh, this year was without a doubt one of the best years we've ever had. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really much for us to really say here, but you know, obviously for the hockey nuts out there, normally traditionally the first event of the year, actually, Anthony, is the World Junior Championships. It kind of crosses over because a lot of the time it starts around Christmas time and then goes into and then transitions into the new year. And normally, if you're a fan of the NHL network, or if you got TXN in Canada, it's you do the World Juniors, and the United States actually won the World Junior Championship this year. Um, they win the gold medal. They won it against Sweden in the final. That was a very good final, to say the very least. So yeah, the USA winning that championship. And then, yes, once we get into the NFL, obviously the Kansas City Chiefs capturing, or I should say, Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines, capturing the NCAA national championship in college football, winning the college football playoff, a semifinal to remember in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. Anthony, you and I know that game really well. We were there for that semifinal between Michigan and Alabama. Five-star classic Shakespearean drama, whatever you want to call it. We had it. It was amazing. Historic. Michigan wins that game, goes on to win the title pretty comfortably over Washington, and Jim Harbaugh finally bringing the national championship to Ann Arbor and winning the title for the Wolverines. Then we move on to the NFL, and the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. That was without a doubt an incredible win for them. Brought the title home, and it was a remarkable run. Then, like you said, then after that, then you get February, the Super Bowl, which is normally the biggest event of the year. And my goodness, what a game it was! Seeing the Kansas City Chiefs hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, winning the Super Bowl over the San Francisco 49ers, 25-22 in overtime, in double overtime, as a matter of fact. Longest Super Bowl game ever in the history of the NFL. We had one overtime before. We never had two until then. And it was a remarkable game, to say the very least. So an unbelievable end to that Super Bowl. And then after that, we had some other things going on. Then, stock car racing, exciting end to the Daytona 500, where William Byron from Hendrick Motorsports winning the Great American Race, winning that unbelievable performance by them. Then after that, obviously, yes, we move on to the NCAA tournament, where UConn hoisting the national championship trophy for the men. Dominating performance, easily one of their greatest performances ever. Obviously, once you turn around on the women's side, yes, without a doubt, South Carolina was the best team out there. But the entire tournament was amazing. LSU versus Purdue. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. Angel Reese gets eliminated by Caitlin Clark. Then there was the epic semifinal with UConn, with Paige Beckers, who right now is projected to be the number one overall player in the upcoming WNBA draft. The Dallas Wings got the number one spot. They most likely will get her. So we had that going on. Then after that, then you get a little later in the year in the NBA, the Boston Celtics winning the NBA World Title. Yes, Michael Bullock and the crew getting a moment to celebrate that. It was an incredible moment, no doubt about it. Obviously, in the NHL, the Florida Panthers, ever the bridesmaid, never the bride, never got over the hump, dangerously close year in and year out, and we knew eventually their time was coming. It finally happened. They finally got the Stanley Cup, winning it for the first time ever in their franchise history. Incredible story for them. And then later on in the year, once you get into I want to say later on in the year, then we have, obviously, hang on, I'm trying to see if I got any more things. Yep, NBA, NHL. So then after that, later in the year, obviously with the Major League Baseball, and actually also you can also talk about, the Olympic Games. Yes, it was without a doubt one of the most exciting games we've had in a long time. They did an incredible job. It was absolutely a phenomenal 16 days. So many things we could talk about, from the U.S. women's rugby team, the 7-on-7s, getting bronze for the first time ever, winning a medal in the Olympics. Then a lot of the successes, the U.S. women's gymnastics team rising to the occasion. Simone Biles getting back to that championship level form. There was the bitter taste in the mouth from 4 years ago, the collapse in Tokyo, or I should say 3 years ago, in the collapse in Tokyo, coming back, redeeming themselves. They got the gold medal. This was the big moment for them to get to that gold, and they got it. And then of course, like Anthony said, the USA basketball team, the men's basketball tournament, what a final with France. My heart goes out to Victor Wembanyama and that team. They played. They went toe to toe with the Americans, and it was Steph Curry, sticking the dagger, call it night night, as they would say. Anthony Floyd and myself, they're in the arena. Florio saying Curry for three, and then we both saying, whoa. Anthony Florio saying Steph Curry with a dagger three that might do it for the USA. And it was the end. Incredible way to win it. And then of course in Major League Baseball, yes, unfortunately for Anthony, it was not meant to be. The Yankees having an incredible run, getting to the World Series. The Dodgers were there to meet them up. This was a highly anticipated World Series matchup. It only lasted 5. Yeah, for Anthony Florio, unfortunately, not the way the year was going to end. But, there's definitely a lot to look forward to in 2025 for him. He's got Buffalo looking really good. Who knows how the Yankees are going to look in 25. So, yeah, we got a clean slate. And then on top of that, his Notre Dame Fighting Irish is actually in the college football playoff as well. They're actually in the quarterfinals. So we'll get into them. I don't know if we're getting into it tonight. I don't know if we're getting into it
No,
later
we're getting
on.
into it tonight.
Oh, all right. So we'll get into that tonight. And yeah, nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, front and center, my friend. Give me your year in review for 2024.
And before we do, we have a final from Thursday Night Football. MF, you're going to love this. The Seattle Seahawks defeat the Chicago Bears by a final score of, and I'm not kidding you, 6-3.
Field goals. Defensive battle. I knew it. I felt it. Oh, baby.
And you could also say the weather played a huge role in it too, because it was raining out there in Chicago.
It was a mud bowl. I love it.
As soon as I saw it raining, I was like, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of points scored in this game, and that was the case.
But
and
anyway,
what about the Chicago Bears?
Break that
out. They've now lost 10 in a row following a 4-2 start.
That Hail Mary, man. That Hail Mary.
That's what everybody's saying. It was the Hail Mary that was the beginning of the downfall for the Chicago Bears. So, all right, now getting to my year in review when it comes to sports. Like you said, I mean, it all started, of course, with Michigan winning the college football playoff national championship. I mean, first time they have it outright, unlike, of course, 97 when they had to share it with Nebraska. And Florio, you and I had a moment during the semifinal between Michigan and Alabama during the Rose Bowl, because that was also the same night of Monday Night Raw.
Yes, we did.
And we were both so excited when Michigan got that stop and they beat Alabama to get to the national championship game. And then, of course, they routed the Washington Huskies in that title game to finally get Jim Harbaugh his first national championship. And all I can say is that was a great way for him to go out, because he ended up taking the job with the LA Chargers later on. So, and then, of course, the Super Bowl, of course, you had the NFL playoffs, and then, of course, capped off by one of the greatest Super Bowl game of all time, with Kansas City once again defending their title, beating the San Francisco 49ers in double overtime. And it's the start of the dynasty. And of course, now the question is now they have the number one seed, and the road to the Super Bowl on the AFC side is going through Arrowhead. And can they do what? Can they go for the three-peat? I mean, we've seen a lot of teams try to go for it, and it hasn't been successful. So we'll see if that could happen as we go into 2025. And then, of course, like you said, with March Madness, much better on the women's side. I mean, because like you said, it was all about two women, especially in the with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese going at it. But in the end, it was South Carolina who came out with the national championship. And on the men's side, it was another championship for Connecticut, back to back. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. And because their start to the season this year got off to a little bit of a rough start, especially when it was in Maui. And we'll see how they can do the rest of the way. And then, of course, we had the baseball season open up, and unfortunately for my team, it was another hard times year for them. And then of course, it was also the start of the NBA playoffs, and of course the NHL playoffs as well. As time wore on, of course, the Boston Celtics getting back to the NBA Finals, and they ended up taking on the Dallas Mavericks. And at the end of the day, they finally, by God, finally won their 18th NBA championship. And I mean, Florio, all I can say is they came close two times prior to this one. 2010, it looked like they were gonna do it, but Kendrick Perkins got hurt, and it pretty much was the beginning of the end for the Celtics, because the Lakers would go on to win the championship in Game 7. And then, of course, in 2022, they lose in 6 games to the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. So, and then let's not forget what happened last season in the previous year in the conference finals. They were down 3-0 to the Miami Heat. And then, of course, they almost pulled off the comeback. And then Game 7, well, yeah, it was a forgetful game. And then going into that season, guys, I mean, well, after that, there was so many people who were calling for Joe Mazzulla to be fired, that he wasn't wasn't the right man for the job. I'm like, hold on, people. This team got to the conference finals, and you're telling me that you want to fire the guy after what happened? The only thing is he didn't have the right coaches to help him out. They made some moves. They got some coaches, of course, with Sam Cassell being one of the assistants. They made a bold decision in trading Marcus Smart, and of course, they ended up getting Drew Holiday, and that turned out to be a really good move. And of course, getting Kristaps Porzingis as well. And then, of course, let's not forget going into the championship season, Jaylen Brown signed a huge contract extension, and there was some people who were critical of that, basically saying, what the hell did this guy do to ever deserve a contract extension that big? Well, all he did at the end of the day, when he was, of course, go on to become the conference finals MVP, and then, of course, win the finals MVP. So that was basically him, guys, basically sticking it to all the haters out there who said he wasn't worth all that much. So he said, oh, really? You think I'm not worth that much? Well, look at what I got now, you bunch of ham and egg jabronis. because now I got my championship along with Jason Tatum, who finally got that monkey off his back as well. And then, of course, Tatum got an extension in the off season along with Derek White. So, and now they're in the midst of defending their title. So, we'll see how it goes the rest of the way in 2025. And of course, the Florida Panthers finally winning their first ever Stanley Cup championship. I mean, unfortunately, it came at the expense of my team, the Bruins. But definitely, congratulations to the Panthers. And then, of course, we had, of course, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in Texas, and one of my guys, Jaron Duran, was named the All-Star Game MVP. So that was a highlight there for me. And then, of course, the Summer Olympics in Paris, France. I mean, like you said, Simone Biles. I mean, winning another gold medal to add to her legacy. I mean, Katie Ledecky in swimming, of course, won some medals when it came to the swimming portion. But, of course, basketball was the other thing for me. And, of course, Team USA winning another gold medal. So, but it was just a great experience to watch the games overall. And, of course, the football season got underway. And, of course, we got the college football playoffs and bowl games going on right now. Of course, we'll talk about the quarterfinals coming up in just a bit. And then, of course, the NFL is on the verge of finishing up their regular season. So, yeah, and of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers winning the World Series and finally doing it with fans in the stands this time, even though it was on the road against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of pressure on the Dodgers going into that season, guys, because they spent a lot of money to put this team together. And there were times, I mean, especially, I think it was the division series against the Padres. Am I correct on that, Florio?
Yes, you are correct in that. And I remember going into that series, the Padres had the Dodgers down 2-1. And going into that game 4, we were saying if the Dodgers had lost that game, Dave Roberts' job would have been done. He would have been fired, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I said it too, that if the Dodgers had lost that game and that series, there's no doubt Dave Roberts would have been done for. I mean, after all that money they spent on, and for them to be eliminated in the division series that wouldn't have set well with Dodger fans. But they got over that. And like I said, now they finally won the World Series. And yeah, Dave Roberts ain't going to go anywhere for a while now. So we'll see if they can make it back-to-back going into the 2025 season. So, yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. So that's pretty much all I got to say on this. And, yeah, I mean, it was a great year in sports in 2024. We can only hope it'll be good in 2025. So that being said, Florian, let's get into the main event, which is the preview of the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. And all I can say is, let's hope it's better than the first round.
And Bullock mentions that because the first round of the college football playoff was a bit anticlimactic. All 4 games were blowouts, with the home teams completely dominating in front of their raucous crowds with well-rounded performances.
And there were so many people who said, Florio, and Fletch even talked about it in his brief video, that Alabama, I mean, especially after what we saw from some of the teams that were in, like Clemson and Indiana, they felt like he said Alabama should have been in, and now I think they should have been.
I agree. I 100% agree.
I will say this. I think this cries and this calls for a little bit of a reshuffle of the deck, because what this now proves is I'm about to say something really offensive, and I don't give a damn. The little schools have no business to be in the big dog yard.
Like in Indiana.
No. I mean, like the Boise States, like the. I'm talking about if you're an ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac 12,
Like the major power
the
conferences.
major powers. Yeah, exactly. You're going to be fine. I know why the committee did what they did, because they feel, I hate to say this is similar to what happens with the NCAA tournament, with the men's college basketball tournament. You get this notion of you got to give the little schools a chance. You got to give the little guys an opportunity to get in, and this and that and blah 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 blah. The problem is, in college football, there isn't that margin of error, because an Alabama, a South Carolina, a Miami, an Ole Miss, teams that were so good, flew under the radar, but get upended because of teams that, either A, had a weak conference, like the Indiana, or just it was in a bad division that they had to give a handout to those particular teams. A la Clemson, but Clemson earned their spot because they won their conference championship and everything else. But the theory that was the problem, and this is why I think a lot of people are making the hay about it now, was, well, who did Indiana truly beat before they got into the playoff?
They had a tough schedule.
There you go, Michael Bullock. The strength of schedule. Why on earth did you not allow that to happen? Because the strength of schedule of SMU wasn't really great. The strength of schedule of Indiana wasn't really great. The strength of schedule of Clemson, but Clemson got in automatically because they won their conference championship. And let's also do away with this stupid notion that if you're a conference champion, you get a guaranteed top 4. No. If you are a conference champion, you get automatic into the playoff. You don't get a top 4 seed. We know who the top 4 are. Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and who would be the 4th? Who is the 4 in the AP in that poll, Anthony?
If you want the top 4, it's Oregon.
Yep.
It's Georgia.
It's
Texas.
Yep. And Ohio State.
I 100% agree with you.
So if you're going to do it this, okay, let me do it this way then. If I'm running the committee next year, I'm putting the top 16. I'm expanding the field to 16. The top 8 seeds, and I'm not going by conference champion, the top 16 gets in. I don't give a damn what conference you are. If you're a conference champion, I don't give a damn. The top 16 gets in. 1 through 16. The first round, you play in your respective schools. I like that format. Do not mess with that format. That's fine. Quarterfinals, you still do the same thing with the bowl games. So the 1 seed would get 1 bowl, 2nd seed gets the 2nd bowl. So top 4 You're the home team, lower seeds. You got to be the road team, and then vice versa. The final four, national championship. I'm cool with everything they did. They got a lot of things right, but they also did a lot of things wrong. They got to clean up a couple of things here and there. There's a couple of here and there they just got to clean up. But you gotta punish. I understand the grand scheme of things, and I was a stark proponent about Alabama, and I still felt like at the time the committee was right. After what I saw in the first weekend, no, they got it all wrong, and everybody was saying how Bama had no business being in the playoff, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh no, Bama should have been in. They would have given us a better game. If you remember, originally the projection was they were supposed to face off against Notre Dame. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It was originally supposed to be Notre Dame versus Alabama. But don't get me wrong. You're playing in front of touchdown Jesus in freaking Notre Dame. I'm sorry. I think we would have had the same outcome. Notre Dame would have beaten Alabama. I don't think in that situation, under those circumstances, I still would have picked Notre Dame. I don't give a damn.
I would have too.
I would.
I would have as well.
Now, would it have been a bigger blow? Would it have been a blowout like what happened? Most likely not. But I would probably say, relatively speaking, I would have given Notre Dame at least 10 to 14 points, maybe 17. I still would have given Notre Dame the edge. They had everything right. So there's some things that need to be tinkered with the college football playoff. But I just don't want to hear the notion that I don't want to hear all the backdoor cheerleaders saying, "Oh, see, I told you, Bama should have been in." Was Bama gonna go one and out like they did? And I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Yes, maybe they should have been in, but at the end of the day, would they have done better than against Notre Dame? Could they have done better if they would have gone up against Penn State? I don't think so. I honestly don't think so.
Well, it could have been far more entertaining than what we saw.
Well, granted, far more entertaining, but still.
I mean, I still would have gone to Notre Dame no matter what.
I just don't see where the narrative was. Look, the committee was in a no-win situation. Either
they were going to get scrutinized no matter what.
Yeah, no, because you put Alabama in, everybody melts down. There would have been a massive meltdown because everybody would have been like, "What the f? Why is Alabama in? How dare you do that?" Because remember, the committee did that to Florida State a year ago, where they denied Florida State, even though Florida State was undefeated, won their ACC championship, and they got left out of the college football playoff. People were furious at the time. But the thing was but just because their star quarterback, their best player for Florida State got hurt, you punish the team because of that? I mean, I get it. And then here we go again. We're seeing Bama lurking around, and we're thinking, oh no, here we go again. They're gonna give Bama the spot again. And this time they don't. We were happy initially because we were like, good. You know what? That they made the right call. Bama didn't deserve to be in there. Now in hindsight, we're like, oh damn. What the hell just happened? Mm-hmm. So I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah, but my question to you, Fletch, and this is only a question.
Sure.
Now, would you still feel the same way? And I'm not saying this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Should Boise State somehow go all the way to win it?
No, because Boise State deserves the spot that they're in. Because the thing is that Boise State had an incredible year. Now I get it. There's some people out there that's harking about, oh, but Boise State hasn't really played anybody good. They haven't really been tested. Everything else. Let's just say this: Boise State's gonna have their work cut out for them, and they will. There's no doubt in my mind. Boise State's gonna have their work cut out. But if they
Well,
get through,
the only reason why I ask is because you were saying about only those that are in the power conference should be in.
well, I'm talking about in the future.
Oh, in the future. All right.
But I do. But the thing is that because this is the same narrative that we are getting. Arizona State should not be in the playoff. Boise State should not be in the playoff because everybody and I hate to say it, but if you remember Cam Newton, he says nobody wants to see those teams, and that really triggered a lot of fans. But it also had a lot of people thinking, you know, look, we can say whatever we want to say about Cam Newton, but he was kind of speaking some truth. And there was some people out there that was saying that same narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Boise State don't deserve to be there. But I kind of disagree with it for the most part. But the thing
and
is,
let's not forget
that
another thing. And I'm going to do a little flashback here. I'm going to do a little flashback. Remember when Boise State got put into the I'm trying to remember what it was. It the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma?
Yes.
And there were some people who felt like they didn't deserve to be in any of the BCS bowl games. And look at what they did.
Well, okay.
I mean, I'm only setting an example here. I'm not trying to
No,
say
no. But let me. I'm gonna. The reason why Boise got in was because, remember, there was a deal that was made by the big conferences to allow one of the little guys, as they call it, the mid-major guys, that if you were within the top 15 of the ranking, that you would be automatically invited into one of the bowls. You weren't playing for the national championship, but you were invited to one of the bowl games. That's why we saw Tulane in there a few years ago. That's why we see, I think it was South Florida getting in there a few years ago. That's why we get to see Boise State get in there. Because if you're in the top 15,
he was getting into something here, but
if you were in the top 15, that you were automatically invited into the college football playoff. Well, not the playoff, but you were invited into the BCS. Okay. So that's exactly what it was. And at the end of the day, that's what happened there. So give me, you can say whatever you want to say about Boise State. You can say whatever you want to say about the mid-major guys. But remember, when those guys got in there, they made it worth their while. Boise State won their game. Wasn't it South Florida that won?
UCF.
It
was UCF.
UCF. They won their bowl game. So I mean, yeah, we can talk about, the little dogs don't deserve to be in the big boy table. Oh yeah, tell that to Boise State. Tell that to UCF. They knocked it, because I remember I was like, there's no way in hell they're winning these games. And I ended up getting burned. Not once, but twice. Because all of us had Oklahoma beating Boise State. I remember Anthony Floyd was like, you know what? These little guys might if they might make this game a lot more closer than what you guys are thinking. He didn't pick Boise State. I think he said Oklahoma wins, but I know he had it much, much closer than the experts have it. And Floyd went out on a limb. It's like, you know what? If Boise State keeps this close, they could steal this. And sure as hell, Florio was right. So
yeah. So either way, I certainly would not want to be in that committee. I mean, to have to make those decisions that either way could get scrutinized. No, I'll leave it to those that are right now in charge of it. Plain and simple. So
Let's get
Florida, do you
into the
have?
playoffs, kid.
So,
All
mm-hmm.
right.
So any thoughts, Florida, with everything we just talked about?
Absolutely. You know, it is. You know, I don't envy that committee. I mean, it's what everything MF just said. I 100% agree with. I mean, the first round had some on paper exciting matches, but unfortunately, they were all damn near duds.
Mm-hmm.
And for this at this time of the year, we don't want duds. We want 5-star classics. We want Shakespearean drama. That's what we want. So,
Mm-hmm.
and expanding the field from 12 to 16, good with me. And
Good with me as well.
and I hate and honestly, I hate the fact that conference champions had to get the top billing. I mean, I understand it, I get it, but in my opinion, Notre Dame should have been seated higher than 7th. That's how I feel about it.
They
I
should
don't give a
at
damn.
least be. They should have been in the top 5. I
Yes.
think you could even make an argument maybe in top 4. Like they could have been at least a 4, maybe even a 5 seed
Yes.
in the college football playoff. I mean absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I really hate the fact that even when the committee acknowledged this, that the only reason why Notre Dame got punished is because they're not in conference. They're not in a conference tournament.
I
So
get it.
if they're not in the conference, they won't get the right to play. I think that's so unfair. That's
Totally unfair.
absolutely unfair to Notre Dame. I say if Notre Dame goes undefeated, they deserve to be in a top 4 spot. Like,
Amen.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think the committee got like that. The language of that deal is absolutely wrong in my opinion.
I 100% agree. And in my honest opinion, Notre Dame should have gotten one of those top 4 spots. That's just me. And so I don't know what else there is honestly to say. I mean, there should be some tweaks. There should be some changes to this format. If you're going to keep it at 12, it should be the 4 best teams regardless of conference or what have you. So, and hopefully we don't get a first round next year like we had this year. So, with that being said, now let's move on here. The first round of the college football playoff was a bit anticlimactic. All 4 games were blowouts, with the home teams completely dominating in front of their raucous crowds with well-rounded performances. Fortunately, the next round should be much better. And let's dive into our college football playoff quarterfinal preview for the 4 matchups starting on Tuesday night. And we will start it off with the Fiesta Bowl. They'll start it on Tuesday night, New Year's Eve. Tuesday night at 7:30. All games will be on ESPN. And it will feature, and of course, this game from the State Farm Stadium, formerly University of Phoenix Stadium, Glendale, Arizona. And we started off with the number 3 seed, the Boise State Broncos, out of the Mountain West. And they will be squaring off against the number 6 seed, Penn State Nittany Lions, out of the Big Ten. Bob Wischusen, Louis Riddick in the booth. On the sidelines, it'll be Chris Budden and Tom Luginbill. And Penn State opening up as a 10.5-point favorite. Ashton Gianti is going to get as many carries as he can handle in the college football playoff quarterfinals. It just won't be nearly enough to win. Penn State allowed the 10th fewest rushing yards a game at almost 104, and the 12th fewest yards to carry at 3.3 during the regular season. For as historically great as Gianti has been, the Nittany Lions have the defense to contain him. When Boise State puts the ball in quarterback Maddox Madsen's hands, the quarterback, who had a 44% completion rate versus pressure this season, will make bad decisions and off-target throws against the Nittany Lions pass rush. Much like against SMU, Penn State's defense will do the heavy lifting in a win. I am going with Penn State to win the Fiesta Bowl and advance to the semifinals. Penn State wins. My final score, 27-17. I got Penn State defeating Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. So, not much more to say. MF, this game came in as our number 3 game out of the 4. So,
Yep.
Penn State and Boise State, Ashton Gianti going up against that vaunted Penn State defense in the Fiesta Bowl to kick it all off on New Year's Eve, Tuesday night.
Yeah, this is going to be this is their toughest game. And if you're Ashton Gianti, you're thinking, all right, now I can show everybody what I'm really capable of, because this is one of the better colleges. This is going to be the biggest test for him. Can he run it against Penn State? Can he do what we've seen him do to so many teams this past season? And why he is, without a doubt, one of the better running backs in the NCAA, and why a lot of people think some very highly heading into the NFL. So it's gonna be a major test. But I'm with you, Anthony. I feel like this is gonna be this is gonna end up being a victory for Penn State. I think Penn State's gonna win. But I will say this: I think it's gonna be closer than what the experts have it, because I think Gianti's gonna break one. I think there's gonna be a moment in the game where Penn State is gonna make a mistake and Gianti's gonna get loose. And when he does, get ready for a highlight reel touchdown. I think it's gonna be a 50-plus yarder. I think he's gonna break one for 50 yards. And it's gonna electrify that crowd in Glendale. So yes, I do believe Penn State's gonna win, but I think it's gonna be somewhere about maybe 10 points. I'm gonna say like a 31-21 type final. So, but I think Ashton Gianti's gonna break one. I think he's gonna bust one loose, and it's gonna be an oh my type moment. So nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a tough challenge for Ashton Giante and the Boise State Broncos. I mean, Giante is going to be dealing with that very tough defense of Penn State. They're really going to be up. Thing is, can they be up for the challenge? I mean, they could, but we'll see what happens with this. But at the end of the day, I'm with you guys. I got to go with Penn State to win this one and move on to the semifinals. So nothing more to say. Let's move on to our next quarterfinal match.
And the remaining 3 quarterfinals will all take place on Wednesday as part of New Year's Day. And we started off with the game that will go down at 1 p.m. Eastern. That Tuesday night game will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff. The Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia on ESPN. The number 4 seed, Arizona State Sun Devils, the champions of the Big 12 Conference, squaring off against the number 5 seed, the Texas Longhorns on ESPN. And on the call for this game will be Joe Tessitore, the voice of Monday Night Raw, soon to be SmackDown in the new year. Joe Tessitore, along with Jesse Palmer in the booth. On the sidelines, it'll be Katie George and Taylor McGregor. They will have the sideline coverage. Texas opening up as a 13.5-point favorite. So MF, Texas, Arizona State. We made this the number 4 game here, but nonetheless, it's Texas and it's Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. So who's going to the semifinals as we start the New Year's Day games here?
I kind of feel like it's going to be Texas. I just feel like I think Arizona State is going to make a game early, but I think Texas is just going to overpower and overmight their will. I mean, I just feel like they're just going to overperform and just dominate in all facets of the game. To me, it's not going to be it's not going to be that close either. I got the Texas Longhorns winning the game and moving on to the semifinals. So, Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I got Texas winning this one as well. I think this should be an easy game for them. I mean, yeah, going in as the favorites here, this should be an easy win for them. So give me Texas to move on to the semifinals. It's yours, Florio.
Quinn Ewers still doesn't look healthy, but the Texas Longhorns at least recommitted to the ground game in the first round. Limiting how often Ewers is dropping back is probably for the best, especially considering the talent advantage Texas will have up front against the Arizona State Sun Devils. When Ewers does drop back, though, he'll have to throw versus a Sun Devils defense that finished the season ranked 122nd in sack rate at 4.07%. On the other side of the ball, with Arizona State's number 1 receiver, Jordan Tyson, potentially out, it's all about stopping Cam Scatterboo. The Longhorns' run defense has excelled this season, allowing just 3.1 yards a carry, eighth in the FBS, with the 11th fewest rushing first downs a game at 6.2. While Scatterboo might break off a handful of runs, the defensive advantage and experience Texas has should make this a one-sided game. So I am going with Texas to win this game as well. My final score, 31-20, Texas over Arizona State. And now we move on to the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. From the legendary Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, the game of the quarterfinals right here. The number 1 overall seed, the Oregon Ducks, out of the Big Ten, the Big Ten champions, squaring off against the number 8 seed, also out of the Big Ten, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Rematch of their thrilling game back on October the 12th, the game which Oregon won 32-31. We get the rematch in Pasadena. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, Holly Rowe, Stormy Buonantony will be. It'll be Holly Rowe and Stormy Buonantony on the sidelines, with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit in the booth. And believe it or not, guys, Ohio State is actually opening up as a 2.5-point favorite in this one. A little interesting, very interesting.
I'm not really surprised because I kind of feel like a lot of people thought Ohio State should have won the game the first time around over Oregon. Plus, traditionally, this is the Rose Bowl. It kind of tends to skew more towards the Big Ten than Pac-12. Well, even though this is Big Ten versus Big Ten, but remember, this has always been Big Ten versus Pac-12, and
Indeed.
these are like 2 of the charter members of that organizations.
Absolutely. So, not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, you started off with the game of the quarterfinals. Ohio State, Oregon, and the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, what can you say? I mean, this is the game right here, and of course, let's not forget also, guys. There's pressure on Ohio State still, because I'll continue to say this: if they don't at least get to the championship or win it all, Ryan Day's going to be gone. So there's still, I mean, yes, they did get the win in the first round, but that doesn't mean that he's quite out of the woods yet. So, and like you said, also because this is traditionally the Big Ten always does something big in the Rose Bowl, especially when it's So we'll see what happens here. I mean, this is tough. I mean, and like you said, Ohio State. Many people said Ohio State should have won that game against Oregon, but oh man, this is to me, and I'll say this right now, and I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me. This is the toughest one to call here because this is one that could go either way. I mean, I want to agree with those. I want to go with those who are going with saying that Ohio State should be the favorite and that should win, but there's just something about Oregon this year that just feels like maybe this is their time. So I'm gonna go with Oregon to win this one, but I'm not at all comfortable with this pick here. So I mean, and if Ohio State were to pull this one off, I would not at all be surprised. But for right now, I'm gonna go with Oregon. But Florio, as I give it to you, I'm not at all comfortable with this pick.
I understand. This should easily be the best matchup in the college football playoff quarterfinals. The Oregon Ducks and Ohio State Buckeyes were arguably the two best teams in the nation this year, as we saw in a thrilling 32-31 game back in October. This time around, the Ducks will not have the home field edge. One thing Oregon can do that Tennessee couldn't versus Ohio State is protect the quarterback. 2.65% sack rate allowed versus 7.45% sack rate. Both teams will run the football effectively, as they did in their last meeting. 296 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns combined. In a back-and-forth game, I'm giving the edge to the better quarterback, with Dylan Gabriel leading a game-winning drive in the final 3 minutes. For all intents and purposes, this is the national championship game. Whoever wins Oregon versus Ohio State could be the national champions. Not will be, could be. So I am going to go with the Oregon Ducks to win this game. It's going to be another close one, just like the last one. Just a smidgen lower on the scoring. 31-28, Oregon defeats Ohio State, and that would set Ohio. It would set up Oregon versus Texas, I believe, in the Cotton Bowl Classic. Oh, if that happens, that's a home field advantage for Texas if that happens. But we have to wait and see how it really plays out. But I'm going with Oregon nonetheless. 31-28 in what should be another 5-star Shakespearean drama classic like we saw in October. 31-28, Oregon wins. MF, this is our game. You are the Kirk Herbstreit to my Chris Fowler here. This is your game. It's the Rose Bowl, your favorite of all the bowl games. And for the second year in a row, we got ourselves another winner here. We thought last year was fun. This year could be just as much, if not more fun. So as you always do, as I always have you do that thing I like. Hello, friends.
Yeah. When it comes to this is it. Yeah, this is the big one. It doesn't matter what we say. You don't really need a hype man on this one because all you just need to remember is earlier in the year, Oregon versus Ohio State, and how just some bad plays or a mismanaged ending cost Ohio State that game. And now here we are on the cusp of what could be one of the best quarterfinal matches we've ever had in the college football playoff. And we'll see if it delivers. Trust me, you got to remember about almost a year ago, we had Alabama and Michigan, and we know how that game played out. 5 stars. And remember, Anthony, you always said good luck to the next teams to try to top that game. Well, now we got Oregon and we got Ohio State. 2 teams that could easily top it. You know that. We all know it. But we'll see. I think Oregon's gonna win though. I just feel like Oregon just has enough that they'll be able to get through. It's gonna be close, but I kind of feel like this is the one that if you're Oregon, you just gotta go and play your game. Ohio State knows they let one get away. They know they should have beaten them the first time around. So they're gonna try to do everything to try to get that win back. But we'll see. And like you said, there's that pressure on Ryan Day, no doubt about it. But there's also pressure on Oregon too. You don't want to flame out. You don't want to lose in this game. You don't want to go out in the first round because this is technically their first round. They didn't get a chance to play a week ago because they got the first round bye. They've been undefeated. But there's some people out there that's been criticizing Oregon about are they really truly the number one team in the nation? Do they deserve the recognition that they're getting? Because there was a few games where they were playing very not so great that they could have gotten upset a couple of times. So off the backdrop of that, with the negativity from the Ohio, not from the Ohio State faithful, but from other college football fans that labeling Oregon frauds, that they're not that great, that they're not the best team out there, that they're a wolf in sheep's clothing. We'll see if that's true. So there's pressure on both sides of the fence. Yes, if Ryan Day doesn't deliver, he might be fired. If Oregon doesn't deliver and they lose to Ohio State and their undefeated season is over with no national championship, there's going to be a lot of talk coming out of Eugene as well. So we'll see. This is going to be fun. Anthony, it's yours. Final game.
And it's the number 2 game out of these 4. The Sugar Bowl, the All-State Sugar Bowl, Caesars Superdome, New Orleans, Louisiana, 8:45 p.m. kickoff. The number 2 seed, the maiden Georgia Bulldogs, the champions of the Southeastern Conference, the SEC, squaring off against the number 7 seed, my team, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, Molly McGrath, and Laura Rutledge. Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy in the booth, Molly McGrath and Laura Rutledge on the sidelines. And out of the 4 spreads, this is the smallest of the spreads. Georgia opening up as only a 1.5 point favorite. 1.5 for Georgia. So here we go. The Carson Beck injury is a game changer. Now sophomore quarterback Gunnar Stockton is thrown into a situation where his first start comes in the college football playoff quarterfinals. all against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish defense that boasts a 7.86% sack rate, 28th in the FBS, with the second lowest average QB rating at about 97 and the lowest completion rate at about 50% allowed this season. Georgia will certainly turn more to the run game, which saved them in the SEC championship game against Texas. But it's worth noting the Bulldogs rank 63rd in yards per carry average at 4.4 this season. It all puts the pressure squarely on the Bulldogs defense. I have seen this unit rise to the occasion twice versus Texas, 17 points a game allowed. But it's also been gashed by Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama. It should be a great defensive battle, but I am expecting the three-headed rushing attack of Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and Riley Leonard to pull out an upset win for Notre Dame. Call me a biased Notre Dame fan all you want, but that Carson Beck injury, I believe, will be the ultimate difference, and I am calling for the upset. I am going with Notre Dame to shock the world and upset the Made in Georgia Bulldogs in the Sugar Bowl. Final score 20-17. Notre Dame does the impossible, does the unthinkable, and upsets Georgia in the Superdome on Wednesday night. And if I'm wrong, whatever. I'm still damn proud of this team for coming as far as they have. So, and if that were to happen, you would have Texas and Oregon on one side, and on the other side, you would have Notre Dame going up against Penn State in my favorite bowl, the Orange Bowl. So we shall see what happens. But if I lone wolf this, I lone wolf it. I don't care. Notre Dame pulls the upset 20-17. The Carson Beck injury, the ultimate difference maker. So with that being said, MF, our number 2 game right here, Notre Dame, Georgia, Sugar Bowl. I think Notre Dame can pull off the upset. What says you?
You got one problem with that analogy. Where you're playing. You're playing in the Superdome. You're playing in New Orleans. That's about a couple states away from Georgia. You know that Georgia crowd's gonna travel so quick to get down and to root for that team. I'll say this. I would give it to you if you were playing in Arizona. I would give it to you if you were playing in Pasadena. I think because that would have been very good. That would have been fine. No problem there. You're not winning the game when this game is in New Orleans, Louisiana, Florio. That's almost as asinine if you would have thought that they would have won that game in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, in their own backyard. I think, and I get it, a lot of people are going to start to feel that way because of the Carson Beck injury and everything else. But here's the thing. Georgia is prepared. They kind of had a feeling this was going to happen. They knew, they were afraid of it. They were hoping that Carson would have been back in time, but they knew that this was not going to, that it was probably not going to be possible. The way he got injured in the SEC championship game, I think we all knew there's no way Carson's coming back. So now you throw yourself into the next man up. The backup quarterback, yes, he's going up against Notre Dame, but the thing is that normally you get a couple of, this is the advantage that Georgia gets. They got 3 weeks to get this kid ready for this game. It's not a bye week. It's not any other thing. They got 3 weeks to prepare. You don't think that they're not ready for this game. All their horses are going to be aligned. The guys who got hurt, who might have been on the outside looking in, they're all in now. They're all going to be available. They're all going to be ready for Notre Dame. So there's no pressure on this play. And like you said, they're going to have to run the football. They're 44th in the nation. They actually run pretty well. So, yes, Georgia, and here's the other thing. Notre Dame's never been tested yet because they haven't really had any real major test. You're talking about an SEC powerhouse in the Maiden Georgia Bulldogs. I don't give a damn what you may think of Georgia. Oh, they lost a step. They're not as great. It's still the freaking Georgia Bulldogs. I don't give a damn. That's like saying about Alabama. That's like saying about Ole Miss. That's still saying about any other team. This is a test. And I get it. I know why a lot of people are thinking Notre Dame, Notre Dame, Notre Dame. But the thing is this is not Indiana. You're not going to push them around. You know Georgia is going to be itching to prove some people wrong. Even though they're getting disrespected because they're like, wait a minute, we're only 1.5 point favorites. That's how they feel about us after what we went through, after the road we had to go through that juggernaut known as the SEC and all this other BS. They're like, okay. So trust me, I'm not gonna lone wolf this. I'm not gonna say that, oh, they're gonna blow. No, 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 no. This is not a blowout. This is gonna be a fight to the finish. This is gonna come down to the wire. But I would not be surprised if Georgia steals this from Notre Dame. And it's gonna be wicked tight. I'm talking about like a 28-24. So I'm with you, Florio. I think it's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. But I think Georgia has had enough. They've been hearing about the Carson Beck injury, how that's going to upend their season, how they're going to lose to Notre Dame. They are not having it. And trust me, Kirby Smart is rallying the boys right now, and he's telling, listen to all these people in the nation. Listen to all these people right now. Listen to how they're saying, we can't win this game. They are going into New Orleans. Like I said, any other place, I would say I wouldn't go in Notre Dame. If this was out in Arizona, I'm rooting for Notre Dame. If this was Pasadena, I'm giving it to Notre Dame. If this was Notre Dame, if they were in Notre Dame Stadium, I give it to Notre Dame. You're going to the South. You're going to the bread and butter of SEC football. There's no way on earth they're going to lose this game. Not under these conditions. Not under this situation. Georgia rises up. I don't know why. I don't know how, but they always rise to those occasions. Anytime when they're in Atlanta, New Orleans, hell, even Miami, when they're playing in the at the Hard Rock in the Orange Bowl. Florio, you know this. Every time they play in the Orange Bowl, they end up winning that game. So this is not a shocker to me. This is not even a prediction. This is a spoiler. Georgia beats Notre Dame, knocks them out of the college football playoff 28-24. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Whew. And you know what? The thing is, I'm sure Georgia has been hearing it from, like you said, all the people that are saying, "Oh, the Carson Beck injury is gonna hurt them." No, because the thing is, they've had 3 weeks to prepare. They know what they're going to be going into. Notre Dame, I mean, they exploded against the Indiana team that everybody expected to beat. could there be an ultimate setback where people would say, "Hey, you should save those for when you're facing Georgia." And like you said, Georgia is in the SEC, and it's not that far from the Superdome, and they're going to use this as motivations. Like, okay, we're sick of being disrespected, and we're going to set a huge example here. And everything that you said, Florio, is asinine. I mean, this is still the Maine and Georgia Bulldogs. Yes, they don't have Carson Beck, but Kirby Smart is going to have this team prepared. They're going to have them motivated, and yes, I got Georgia winning this one, and that's what I'm going to go with. But you guys say it's going to be close. No, it is going to be an absolute blowout. And why? Because they want to send a message not just to Notre Dame, but to every person out there who says, "Oh, they can't do it without Carson Beck." They're going to show that this is more than just about one guy. This is about a team effort. Plain and simple. Georgia wins in a blowout, and if people got a problem with that, I don't give a damn about it. It's yours, Florio.
All right. So with that will put the bow on this 2024 TXN Sports World Year in Review special. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always and throughout the entire year. And we look forward to bringing you more exciting content in 2025 when it comes to TXN Sports World. We'll be back with you again tomorrow night, 10:30, right back here on the Tone 25, Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We'll have a quick recap of the Christmas games and Thursday Night Football, and we'll preview the remaining games of Week 17, including a Saturday triple header, and among other things. And then we will and then Saturday night over on MF's channel, Braceway 95, the Talking Wrestling TXN 2024 Year in Review special, where we will take a look back at our favorite moments in the world of professional wrestling in 2024 and our year-end awards. So we will do that on Saturday, and then Monday Night Raw, Ridiculously Raw, the final Ridiculously Raw of 2024, as we will review the final Monday Night Raw of the year, as well as the final Monday Night Raw on the USA Network before the big move to Netflix. And I will also have NXT Level Up in my my Tony's take, and then we'll take it from there. So that's it. So until tomorrow night for the Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday, this is Anthony Florio here for Good Old MF Michael Fletcher, for Michael Bullock, and of course, always and forever, our First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up, watching 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Friday, and until tomorrow night for the Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday, you've been watching the 2024 TXN Sports World Year in Review special right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and Streamer.com. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody, bye.